grade. I'd like to welcome the second graders, Sunday school. Please come up. Thank you, second grade. Now please, third graders, come up. Seventh grade, please come up. Thank you, seventh grade. Thank you, Sunday school, for making the opportunity look beautiful. Now I'd like to invite Pastor Nose and Mrs. Jacobs to go on with the ceremony. Let's all stand up.
Hanil Kumonim, Chanjin Chambumonim, Kambe.
So let's sing Happy Holidays to true parents. Can we also please have the kids who gave the offering to come up to the cake cutting too?
So it's an honor to be here today. Actually, about a month ago, Dr. Bottom was leading our weekly staff meeting, and he encouraged all of the younger staff around the room to give Sunday service, especially during Children's Day. So, although he did encourage youth, compared to some of us in this room, you can consider me a youth. Where I'm already 37 years old. So. But yeah, today is a day to celebrate True Children's Day. And I wanted to start by asking, what is the significance of this day, this holy day? And as you saw in the reading, Children's Day, the founder, our spend time in love with his children. But due to the fall, he's been longing to have that relationship with his children for all of history. And it wasn't until our two parents received the blessing in 1960, and when they had their first children, that on that foundation, that two parents could actually claim this day as a holy day. And it was the fourth of the four main holy days that was established. So in one sense, the significance of Children's Day is really that it's the first time for God to be able to be rejoined with his children and be able to celebrate in that. Now that's from a theological perspective. I don't know if some of you in the audience, have you ever experienced losing your children for a few minutes? Anyone? Yeah, well, one time we were on a cruise boat and our kids got lost. And we knew that they couldn't really get lost, but it was a huge boat. So for about 30 minutes, we were really like worried, especially my wife. I told you we shouldn't let them go, and anyway, we had this whole thing. But we found them, finally, and I felt so relieved. Like, thank God they were safe. We don't always feel like that when we look at our kids, but in that moment, we were really grateful to have found our kids. So, really imagine, again, understand that God is our parent. For God to be able to relate and find children that could recognize him and enjoy time with him, that's really what this day signifies. So, knowing that it's an important day, who do you think this day is for? Children's Day. Who here is a child? Okay, about a third, a fifth of us are children. So the rest of us? I guess you're old, right? No. Actually, according to principle, we're all children in front of God. That this day is not just to celebrate our kids, although I must say, this was one of my favorite holidays growing up as a child because of this. We would always get treats, after Children's Day. But if you really think about it, since 1960, when this holy day was established, through the blessing ceremony that all of you have been connected with, we have been given the new lineage where we can consider ourselves part of God's lineage and directly his children. So in essence, we are all children in front of God. So, knowing that we're the children, knowing the significance of this day, the question always comes back to how do you apply this? And for those who have heard me speak before, I always like to make things relevant and practical so that you can use it in your daily life. So how can we practice or honor this day, this Children's Day? Well, the secret is we need to be like children again. There was a song, one of my favorite songs is See Through Children's Eyes. We sang that this morning. And in that song, it really shows that when we are able to see from children's perspective, we find so much more joy in our lives. Right? We see things from with hope, with a new set of eyes, and there's new possibilities everywhere we go. So the question is, how do we grow our children's realm of heart? How do we grow as children? And this is for adults too. We may think children's realm is just for kids, right? But actually it's even more important for parents to continue to grow their children's realm of heart. And there's a secret to doing that. Do you know what that secret is? Some people were in the first sermon, so they should actually know the answer to this one. Well, the secret is gratitude. Okay? When you practice gratitude, well, let me ask you another question. How do children grow their children grow their heart? Most of you look like parents here. By receiving love. Exactly, right? It's only when kids receive love that they're able to grow, right? So, how do kids receive love? I already gave the answer, actually. It's through gratitude. It's when they are grateful, they can truly receive. It's almost like a give and take action. God's love, assuming that God loves each of us, right? It's only when we return that love through receiving it with gratitude that there's a circuit and we can actually experience and feel God's love. How many of you guys feel that God, or know that God loves you? Okay, only half of you. You might have to go to church more often. But how about among those that know that God loves you, how many of you feel God's love? Okay, about half of the half that raised their hand before. So we know that God loves, but why is it that we only feel God's love sometimes? Right? We know that God loves us, but we don't always feel it. Well, let me give you a story. Every time I travel a bit, I make sure to try to get gifts. I come home with gifts, and the first thing that happens when I get home is my daughter comes running up to me and says, "Where's my gift?" And then I usually tell her, first you should say, "Welcome home," right, Nasai, and then you can ask for the gift. And then she says, "Okay, Nasai, where's my gift?" And, you know, for me as a parent, I feel tremendous joy when she gets really excited to receive the gift. Now, on the other hand, my son, when I bring gifts home, he's usually like, thanks. So sometimes, even though I'm trying to give love to both my kids, it's not always received. Now, which side feels more love? Maybe he feels love too, but it's more expressed, and as a parent, when it's received, I definitely want to give more. Same thing with God, guys. You know, when we appreciate what God gives in our lives, then naturally we actually feel more of God's love. Whereas when we don't appreciate, when we don't recognize God's effort in our lives, then even though God is giving us love, we don't actually receive it, and we can't feel it even though it exists. Does that make sense? Now, God's love is not always sweet. And I want to share an experience. One time, I was in Korea recently in February, and it was my birthday. I tend to spend my birthdays and anniversaries in Korea because it's in February. Anyway, it was my birthday, and I was part of this 3-day-long leaders meeting. 400 leaders from all around the world. Everyone's wearing their best suits, so on and so forth. And it was the 3rd day of the meeting. It was my birthday, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. Oh, by the way, I did have a suit, but it was like 3 years old when I was about 20 pounds lighter. So it was kind of tight, very uncomfortable, like so tight you can't even sit, like you know. Anyway, it was tight, so very uncomfortable. So it was my birthday, so you know what? I was like, today I'm not going to wear my suit. I'm going to be relaxed. And so I went to the meeting. I'm sitting in the back anyway, so no one's going to notice. And I went to that day thinking, God, please, you know, since I'm spending my birthday in Korea, please show me a sign. Show me something. Make this day special for me. So I made this request. That morning, someone comes up to me and says, hey, now, Kimi, are you ready for your ceremony? I'm like, what ceremony? I said, well, apparently you've been appointed as the co-chair of Youth and Students Department for North America. I was like, whoa, sounds important. What does that mean? It's like, basically, you're responsible for education of all youth aged 13 to 40. Oh, do I get a raise? No. suit at the dormitory, and there's no way for me to get it back. Anyway, at least 3 other people warned me. They said, please, where's your suit? You need to wear a suit. But part of me, I was like, it's okay, it's my birthday. I'm an independent American. I can be fine. I'll just walk up there and it'll be fine. So I went up there, had this whole ceremony. We shook hands with Sunjinim, representing Shumother, and I was the only one without a suit. Everyone else was like a 60-year-old male with the same color suit. You can see me. Anyway, I didn't think this picture existed because anyway it doesn't. So I went there. I thought it was fine. And that day, later that day, we had a meeting with all the North American leaders, about 30 of us. And I was already feeling really good. It was my birthday. God gave me the sign. Also, Dr. Bachman found out it was my birthday, so they sang happy birthday. And I was like, wow, more responsibility. He's loving me up to do this happy birthday in front of all my peers. And then they asked me to give a speech. So I said, today's been great so far, but it's still young. So I'm open to whatever else God needs to share with me. That moment, Dr. Kim walks in, like the alarm over there, and basically says, now Kimi, why didn't you have a suit during the ceremony? And this is in front of all my peers and all the leaders in North America. And I was like, a lot of thoughts going through my mind. I was like, what's the big deal? It's just a suit. It's my birthday, And he continues to scold me for about a good, it felt like forever, but probably for a few minutes. And everyone was awkwardly silent. Oh yeah, I was upset at my peers too. I was like, why didn't anyone else step up, during that time? They were all like, cowering. Anyway, later on, as I reflected on this moment, I realized that, I really asked for it. I was like literally asking God for a sign and more message. And I really felt that beyond the external reason of wearing a suit at the ceremony, it was more of an internal guidance that it's great what I'm doing, but I need to be more aware of the larger, culture or atmosphere, and be sensitive to the environment or the circumstance of the ceremony and who I represent beyond just myself. So I was able to receive it, took some time, but receive it gratefully as a message from God. And I decided that I'm going to make it right. So I went and I actually bought myself a new suit in Korea. This is the one that I bought. And I used Mother's money. And the first meeting that we had back in America, I wore the suit to the meeting with Dr. Kim. And when he saw me in the suit, he just smiled and he was just so appreciative. He said, wow, now Kimi, this is the first time I've seen you wear a suit in the 3 years as CARP president. He was right, actually, I don't usually wear suits. And he says, there might be some hope with CARP. Anyway, I received that as well, and I felt like, and after that, he actually started sharing his stories when he did some epic fails in front of Mother herself. And through this experience, we actually became a lot closer, me and Dr. Kim. So what I'm saying, the reason why I'm sharing that story is, sometimes God's love comes in different ways. It's not always sweet candy and gifts, right? Sometimes God's message is through tough love. Something where He wants us to grow, He wants us to really challenge, He trusts us to be able to overcome the challenge that is in our lives. So when we think about our lives, my question to you is, what can you be grateful for today? What can you appreciate God for in your life? I want you to think about that. Because when we think about what we can be grateful for to God, that's how we can truly honor this day. That's how we actually recognize and raise God up in the position as a parent when we act like children in front of God. Does that make sense? And so to honor this day, to really make it something meaningful rather than just the offering table and the ceremony, let's try to practice gratitude to God and to each other representing God. And that's how we can actually honor this day and continue to grow our hearts as children. Now you might think, okay, that's easy for you to say, it's nice to be grateful for you, but how about your kids, right? What if your kids don't behave like you want them to? I've experienced this myself where you're like, you should be more grateful. Like, I'm grateful, my kids aren't, right? The trick is, if you want the kids to be grateful, we need to model it ourselves first. It's through us expressing gratitude that our kids naturally inherit that and start to practice with us. And I know it's not easy. And that's why I'm saying, in order for you to re-energize, in order for us to re-energize our battery of love, we first need to express gratitude to God. Because that's how we receive love from God. That's how we raise up our love battery so that we can give it to our kids and our peers and our partners. Does that make sense? So gratitude is not just to honor God, but it's a principle through which we can also receive love and raise our own energy. So I want you to take a moment now, give you some time to think about it. I want you to turn to your neighbor and share one thing you can be grateful for to God. I'll give you 3 minutes to do that, 90 seconds each. Okay? Ready? Some of you were done after 10 seconds. No, it's true. It's not always easy to think about and express gratitude, right? One thing that we did last year, I think, with my family was right around Thanksgiving time, we did a 21-day tradition where during dinner, we would each go around and express one thing that we're appreciative of. So after like the 5th day, it gets a little bit repetitive. The kids race to it, and they're like, I'm grateful for Mama for making dinner tonight. But even that simple statement, really I noticed it filled my wife with so much love that she would smile. And so there's so many things that we take for granted around us. And we're not used to expressing gratitude so much. So it does take practice and effort. It's like in the song with the sea through children's eyes, and there was that scenery of the sun rising. How often do we just take a moment and appreciate nature? How often do we just thank God for another new day? Or wake up in the morning and smile, look over and look at our partner and smile and say thank you. So there's many things that we tend to take for granted, but the secret to keeping yourself full of love is constantly practicing gratitude. So on this day of Children's Day, I want to really remind ourselves of the significance of this day for God, our Heavenly Parent, to finally find His children again. Also to recognize and remind us that we are all children of God. And that the best way for us to honor this day and every day is by practicing gratitude. So with that, I want to encourage you all to have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the week. And let's live our lives and bring joy to God.